What is a god? As far back as humans have been found in anthropological digs, finding our fossils, in the modern physical sense our anatomy is, we have probably had a perception of some power or beings in some nature worship sense, where aspects of nature, whether it be hurricanes, floods, lightning, things way beyond our power, were attributed to some being or force of nature which humans later call gods. We have found several figurines. Be sure to check out Gnostic Informant's YouTube channel on these topics. But humans have always done this, as far back as we could remember. Why? You know, I dive into the science behind several of these topics to understand, why do humans believe? Why do we assume there are things there when they aren't? Approaching this scientifically with a skeptical mind, one walks away considering, what are these stories we've told ourselves in the Rig Vedas, in the Bible, in various religions? We have these sacred texts that have highly, I would say, exaggerated tales that look like what we call mythology, legend. They might be a mixture of history and myth. Did they really happen? No. Most likely not in most cases. Are there anchoring to histories or what we call verisimilitude taking place? Sure. But that's how they wrote ancient fiction. You know, I used to worship Jesus as God in the flesh. He was everything to me. My entire world as a young kid, looking up to my mom and my father, both Christians in some way, shape, or form. Dad was Roman Catholic, mom was Pentecostal. So my whole world was a pretty privileged one. I had a badass for a father who was Special Forces, Green Beret, on the front line of many hardcore situations in South America and then also in the Middle East when all that stuff took place. And I felt like I was the center of the world. In fact, we could do no wrong. America was the best nation on the planet. Of course, we had the right religion. That's why we're the best nation. And I had all these really erroneous views. I didn't know the big world of gods and cultures and beliefs that exist. The different cultic, mythic, legendary tales in the ancient world. I mean, sure, I had been immersed in stuff that is legendary folklore, like Paul Bunyan, or various things that we've told ourselves as stories. I was big into video games, but never for a second did it dawn on me that Christianity, Jesus, was also legend, myth, folklore, cultic material like any other religion. This was sacred cows, and you better not slaughter a sacred cow. So as the years progress, I dive deeper into my own faith, investigating more in depth which is the accurate position. You know, you wake up with 40,000 denominations on the planet. I didn't engage with that many. People throw that out with rhetorical meaning online against Christians. I only had to deal with 3 or 4. You know, when you go to public school and several other Christians come to you with their own flavor of Kool-Aid, telling you, no, you got to drink it this way, or it needs to taste like this, that raises some questions as a very young teen. No, my version's got to be right. And these little seeds of doubt are planted, starting from our little Plato's cave with shadows on the wall. The shadows were as real as they could be, and they were my shadows. And my shadows were the true ones. And everyone else who didn't see the shadows my way, don't worry. There's a lake of fire, a place of eternal conscious torment waiting for you. But God does love you. And how this contradiction somehow sat still in my mind. I don't know how I didn't blame God in my own worldview for the atrocity of eternal conscious torment in hell. I just somehow was able to make sense of it or allow it to be. And as I progressed through the various denominations, I'd come across Ravi Zacharias, Christian apologist, who claimed to have engaged the bigger world of religions, writing books about Jesus among other gods, which I read as a young teen. And I thought, this Jesus is so unique and so special. I watched him, William Lane Craig, Lee Strobel, and many other apologists tackle these other people from different positions. And of course, we win. We always have. Just like America, just like my father. It was as the years go by that I realized my own suffering and my own issues didn't match up with my beliefs. I suffered with severe cognitive dissonance for years while struggling with my own addictions, real life situations. Eventually having to face the mirror and really think and seriously ask the question, am I right? Is Jesus really the only way? Will people really go to hell for not believing in him? I had struggled with understanding the end times, what they call eschatology, the study of last things. And I really thought I had come close to realizing Jesus said some things that 99% of the church, 99, are just oblivious to. He was expecting, according to the Gospels, if you take those as his words, he expected the end to happen soon. Christians have several ways to get around this, wiggling their way out of serious damning claims. Well, it was a conditional claim, as long as the church did what they were supposed to do, just like the Old Testament Israel, ignoring people like John J. Collins and other several academics who have excellent scholarship showing in the Hellenistic period with apocalypticism, a linear timeline and an end to human history was coming. And it was determined, not some relative, conditional point of view that Christians seem to be trying to do. The other one is they want to push the dates off, but this is well known. Sabbatai Zevi, several apocalyptic movements have done this. And when it fails, they just say it was a spiritual thing, or we got the timing wrong, or it was never that person, that cult leader, their religion that was wrong. No. Their religion couldn't be man-made. Though several goddesses and ancient figurines that date way back into prehistory, several gods, several beings, humans have probably worshipped or adored in some way, sacrificed and paid homage or honored way before Jesus. And I started discovering this. And I thought, how selfish have I really been that I've been ignoring everyone else's deities, everyone else's particular belief systems in favor of my own. Once you pop that bubble of realizing, wow, it's not only are there so many other beliefs, and that there are so many beliefs within this belief that we call Christianity, and they cannot agree, and in fact damn each other for believing differently about the beliefs of Jesus. And you go back into the earliest days of Christianity and see the strife amongst themselves, the division between Christians, so much so that the heresiologist had to damn and condemn several very popular, motivated, and I would just say sincere Christians like Marcion and others, Valentinius, Gnostic-type Christians who were really ready to die for their beliefs just as much as the heresiologist and other martyrs. Yet, we just somehow have the truth in our particular one. Everyone's right in their own eyes. On top of that, and the several world religions, I then started to discover, hold on, Jesus is not like this unique one deity out of nowhere. This deity seems to have been put together almost like a Lego box full of pieces. And there are several of those pieces that look, not that they're stolen. Several polemics online against Christians coming from atheists act like they stole or they're stealing. Now, if we were in today's time and you had to go give an exam and Jesus pops up, and we have several other figures, you would say there's definitely some borrowing taking place. Maybe a little from Asclepius, maybe a little bit from Dionysus, maybe a little from the Caesars, Romulus with his ascension. There are several people and deities that come to mind that may have played a significant role in that development and creation of what we see in the Gospels and Acts. Hell, I'll go a step further and say, even with what we see in Paul. Paul has eyewitnesses, supposedly. So did the Caesars. So did Romulus. Their eyewitnesses are more reliable, more believable than the Caesars, than Romulus. We're reading these ancient texts. I guess you'd just say I became a detective. I sincerely wondered if I was in a court of law and I was able to read this ancient literature, would I really rest my whole life on putting someone behind bars based on ancient literature, never meeting the people, not even knowing who really wrote this? We have someone who says that, hey, I'm Paul, and they wrote this letter. I mean, you really got a lot at stake. Is it really worth putting all of this on the line for something that looks highly mythical, legendary? Several contradictions within this material. We don't know who the authors really are. And I started to go, there's so many gods floating around. What the heck makes me think this one's true? He can't get the timing of the end right. Apocalyptic failure, failed apocalyptic prophet, just like several academics say. Very mythical and legendary material in this, very contradictory amongst itself. Why would I think this is divine? And I get it, people read this stuff with allegory. So did the Greeks with their own myths. They read those as allegories too. They didn't like seeing Zeus come down raping women to impregnate them. No, they started reading them as allegories. And some people said, hey, historically, some of the stuff doesn't make sense. Origen even said, it's better to just read this stuff for the meaning behind the text. David Friedrich Strauss also tried to do that. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm just simply trying to say, get out of your little bubble. Look at the bigger world and find out how small we are, and find out how small this one religion really is. Sure, it's grown. That's what happens when you enforce and you proselytize under the condemnation of hell and under the power of political power over 2 millennia. Jesus pops up 2,000 years ago. We have so many older gods. Osiris has a much longer record in history as a deity. There are many other deities. And you can call this some fallacy, as if we need to investigate. That's why I brought up some of the reasons why we should be questioning these things. MythVision really does dive deep into the material for you to see. But is it really, really true? Like it actually happened and all these others didn't? That's really wild. I think any honest, sincere inquiry is going to cause someone to at least be agnostic and at least say, I'm not sure. I believe because I have faith. You know, the faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I hope for this, but I don't have the evidence of it. And if you count the New Testament as evidence, then you're taking away from faith by that definition. Just because you're reading this literature doesn't make that more evidence toward its truth. They're just texts telling you things, and we don't know how any of that can be proven at all. None of the miracles said in it can actually be proven. None of the claims of these things in there are provable. And I once hook, line, and sinker drank the Kool-Aid and believed every single drop of what was said in there. It was ingrained in me. It was indoctrinated in me. Well, maybe we should reverse the roles and start to stretch our minds and break down those walls that divide us by religious categories, by the way we look, by the way we dress, by the way that our skin color is, by our culture, our language, our identity, our gender, all of these different things that we have done for millennia, but we've never taken the time to break those down on the level that we're doing today. Yeah, it's a new day. Yeah, the unknown can be scary, but I hope we can start seeing each other just as humans and start loving each other without having the dogma that we've had from the ancient ancestors passed down to us. I'm not trying to condemn them. They did the best they knew how at the time. Let's do the best we know how with the evidence and information we have today. And never forget, we are MythVision.